This episode of iFanboy is brought to you by Netflix.com, GoDaddy.com, and Squarespace.com. So suppose, like, there's this one time, like, I ran a stop sign on accident. Ooh. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another time, like, I was in a store and I grabbed the gum and I didn't make it to the... I forgot that I was holding it and I walked right outside.
What are you doing saying this out loud? He could be anywhere.
Really?
Yes.
Knife in the scrotum. Hey, welcome to iFanboy, the comic book discussion show. My name is Connor. I'm here with...
I'm Josh.
And I'm Ron. And maybe you might have noticed that there's a comic book movie coming out about The Punisher.
Maybe. It's getting very little press.
Could get pushed back.
Yeah, we could. Who knows? But we thought it would be a good opportunity to take a look at The Punisher in comics. He's a character that has been around for a while, for about 30-plus years now, and is immensely popular.
Maybe you saw the ads and you think, I don't know anything about who this Punisher is.
Exactly.
Now here you go.
Maybe you've seen the skull.
Or maybe you
Very
thought,
iconic.
I don't like The Punisher. Maybe we'll be like, talk about it, and you'll be like, hey, I kind of do like The Punisher.
Yeah, you never know.
Or maybe you really like The Punisher, hear us talk about it, and you go, I'm never looking at him again.
Yeah, exactly. Or
I don't know.
Or maybe you're poised over your keyboard ready to correct us.
So for those who don't know, for you DC fans, or for anybody else who doesn't know, The Punisher was actually first introduced in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man number 129. It was created by Gerry Conway and John Romita and Ross Andrew. And was actually, Amazing Spider-Man number 129 was a plot point in the movie Coyote Ugly.
Yes, it was.
You know, the guy had the comic. Anyway.
Cable. There's a lot of stuff on cable late at night.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
You don't have to watch it. There's boobs in that one.
He's introduced, he's very simple, black costume, white boots, white gloves, white skull, and he's a hired hitman, and he's hired to
I would question the white gloves.
And the white boots.
Yeah, exactly.
They're a little more... They're a little more Nancy Sinatra than maybe he wants to be.
Not only that, but you're in New York City in the late 80s.
Yeah.
It was very dirty.
No, it was the 70s.
Even worse.
Yeah, even worse, yeah.
It was very dirty.
Yeah. But
so you think he'd come back from killing people and he'd be like black up to his elbows? Why did he just go all black on
bleach? I don't know. It was a good costume.
Was it Pin Particles?
It was a great costume. No, it wasn't. His background, his origin story is that his name is Frank Castle, and he was actually a New York cop, New York City police officer, who was in the wars, and we'll get to that in a second. His family was gunned down by the mafia in Central Park, and very, very tragic, his wife and kids. And the moment that happened, he swore that he would punish those who broke the law.
Criminals are cowardly and super
No,
stupid.
no,
Wait,
no,
okay, sorry, my bad.
And so he donned the skull and
And the white gloves.
And the white gloves, and pretty much would kill anybody who broke the law.
Stole gum, ran a stop sign.
Exactly.
Yeah, in this version, he has black gloves and black boots.
Well, because they moved it along.
Yeah,
we're jumping ahead.
I'm just saying.
So what was really interesting is that, when we grew up in comics, the Punisher has been prevalent, has been all over the place. Mm-hmm. But for a good 10-plus years, he was one of those guys that guest appearances.
It's probably a throwaway character.
Oh, totally.
First.
Yeah,
I mean, just not a big deal. And then, like he shows up and they realize, hey, we got a lot of letters for this one. Let's bring him back. And you see the reaction. And then eventually somebody goes, yeah, I got an idea of something we can do with this guy.
Yeah. So so that fast forwards us up to 1985, where we get a miniseries called The Punisher.
The Facts of Life was big on TV, and Frank Castle was ready to take on the world.
So who was the creative team on this? My mind is blanking. It was Stephen Grant.
Stephen Grant was the writer.
Grant and
Mike Zeck.
Mike Zeck, yes, on this miniseries, and came out in 1986.
Seminal Punisher miniseries.
Yeah,
big year.
Law was big on TV.
But big year for comics, and it was
Dark Knight, Watchmen.
And it was a big moment for the Punisher because it gave him his own title, and much like Wolverine, who got a miniseries with Frank Miller and Chris Claremont, fans ate it up and loved it. The fact that I really think if you look at the character, the core of the character is he's a dude with a skull who kills people. It was really the birth of the Marvel anti-hero.
Break it down, Ron.
I know, but I'm just saying. But the anti-hero at that time was a Dark Knight came out, Watchmen, all this kind of stuff. He kills people, but he's doing it in the name of good. Is he good? Is he bad?
It's a grim and gritty time.
Exactly. So based off the success of that miniseries, in 1987, they launched an ongoing series, which actually ran from 87 until 1995.
It's a long time.
And that propelled the Punisher to immense popularity.
And who did that one?
That was Mike Baron and Klaus Janson.
Klaus.
They started it. A lot of people worked on it, and then like what happened in the late 80s, early 90s Marvel, there are lots of spin-offs. So we had Punisher War Journal, which featured a young Jim Lee before the X-Men on the arc.
Really I bought those. Those were like the expensive.
War Journal was the 125 title.
Yeah.
150.
Was it 150?
Oh yeah.
War Journal was good.
Was everything else 125?
Yes.
That was
150 because it was the premium paper and everything, and Chuck
hard
Dixon
cardstock cover.
Yeah, I think it was a big deal.
Yeah, I remember that.
And there was in issue 6 or 7 was when Wolverine showed up.
Yeah,
and that was like
that was like grim and gritty, too much.
It was too much grit.
Yeah, too grit.
It was like you'd take it out of the plastic bag and there would be grit.
And then it would growl at you.
And then it also begat in the early 90s Punisher Warzone, which I remember was one of the first times I noticed. I purposely noticed John Romita Jr.'s art because he was the artist, and it had the die-cut bullet holes in the cover because it was the gimmicky cover type thing. That was pretty much the beginning of the end for the character. I remember that being like the moment I'm like, this feels like too much.
And they overdid it.
They overdid
it with Venom, and they overdid it with...
Exactly, and by the mid-90s, the character became a joke because it really wasn't... And this is something we were talking about, if you look at the character, he's a character hell-bent on revenge. His family was killed. He wants to get revenge on it against anybody who does things, and it kind of stops there. You know, the kind of character development
How do you keep doing that forever? I
mean,
eventually you're going to run out of villains.
But there was some really cool shit that happened. A Jigsaw, that villain who was awesome. He had the cool microchip guy who was the guy in the van who did all the stuff. I mean, it was a fun little universe for a while of just killing people and avenging.
If you're microchipped, are you like afraid to pirate music?
Microchip got...
Did they have music pirating then?
But like if you were doing it now, it'd be like...
did he have a dual cassette deck?
I totally got this cool song off Napster.
Oh right, yeah.
Was he like really?
Well, here's the thing though, and this is the.
Or was he into like free information? Punisher was like
yeah. Well, here's the thing: is that Punisher's breaking the law.
Yes, what's that?
So it's kind of a paradox, right? I mean, I just blew your mind. I mean, the Punisher's killing people. He's not an agent. He's not a cop. He's not, he's taking the law into his own hands.
Well, not even cops can walk around shooting criminals. No one can.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Only the 18.
Well, I'm just saying, it's not like
James Bond.
It's not like he's clear to use lethal force.
No, he's absolutely. He should shoot himself in that.
Yeah, exactly. So
he would be put to death.
Yeah.
If caught.
Yeah.
But as we saw in Daredevil.
So did you guys,
okay in prison.
Did you read the Punisher during this time period? Did you like the...
Off and on. I definitely read Punisher War Journal back then because it seemed like an interesting book. I don't remember.
Everybody read it. I mean, not everybody. Yeah. It was very popular.
Yeah. But realistically, the character was never one that really stuck to me. When I was reading that book, I was reading because it was a good book rather than the fact that it was a character who I was like, oh, I really love reading Punisher. Because the fact is, over time, I don't like the Punisher as a main character. I like the Punisher as somebody who shows up sparingly, to bring up story points and to throw in some.
He was great in
Civil
War.
Yes, he was great in Civil War. He's great. He's great in Secret Invasion. He's really good in Secret Invasion. Yeah. He was really great in the Daredevil story that he showed up in.
Yep. At the diner.
Yeah.
That's great. That was awesome.
In prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went into prison. Remember, he's sitting in the diner and he read the paper that Daredevil went to jail, and then he put his thing down and goes outside and kills a guy in front of a cop, and it goes like this.
It was awesome.
Like, it's fun like that. Yeah. There's actually, in Ennis's run, there's a bit where he interacts with... I know that, but I'm not going to talk about the run specifically, but I'm talking about his interaction with Daredevil.
Yeah.
And the point is...
Well, because they're two street-level heroes.
Right, and Daredevil's like, you can't do that.
And Daredevil's a lawyer.
He's like, stop me.
Yeah. Yeah, Daredevil and Punisher have always kind of butt heads, and Spider-Man, like the street level kind of guys.
The New York City guys.
Yeah, the New York City guys, that whole world, the less fantastic and sort of thing. But so by the mid-'90s, the character's a joke, the sales are dipping, they cancel the ongoing title, and then he kind of fades into obscurity.
And then the second age booms, and we'll talk about that after this.
Are you looking for a presence on the web, want to build a blog, a portfolio, or any kind of website, but don't know how to do it? Squarespace.com has the tools you need to build professional-looking websites. Get over to squarespace.com and you'll find everything you need to build the website of your dreams. I had no idea how to build a website, but look what we'll be having soon. You can get a free 2-week trial over at squarespace.com. Make sure you tell them iFanboy sent you.
Fast forward to 1998. Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti are at their event studio.
1998. ER is on the TV.
You're obsessed with doing that.
I do.
Marvel Knights.
And Marvel Knights gets emerged. So Marvel Knights was a imprint that was done outside of the Marvel offices proper, and it was done in Quesada and Palmiotti's studio. And they relaunched titles like Daredevil,
Daredevil.
No, there was a couple
Inhumans.
Inhumans, yeah.
Sentry.
Sentry was nice. But that first wave.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man wasn't.
There was a Spider-Man
later.
Spider-Man.
Not in that first wave, though. The first wave, I forget the first wave. There's only like 4 books, something like that.
Yeah.
But Punisher was one of them.
Was there a Ghost Rider?
So what this concept was that Bernie Wrightson came on board. And and Michael Golden.
Michael Golden.
And proceeded to write a tale of because apparently the Punisher had died in continuity. Mm-hmm. And so what they did was they resurrected him as a demon.
As the Spectre.
Basically as the Spectre, who had the ability, he had a trench coat, and his power was he was able to reach in the trench coat and pull out any weapon he likes. And he was doing that to kill people,
Wouldn't he just pull out the ultimate nullifier every time?
Yeah, I don't know. It lasted like 4 issues and was a joke. It was so funny.
Basically, he was a demon killing demons.
He had wings.
Yes.
At one point, I think he did. Yeah.
He had wings.
Yeah.
You don't.
And he had a little thing on his head, like a little sigil or something like that. Yeah.
Talk about misreading a character completely.
Yeah, so that wasn't good.
Yeah, so it's funny how when we talk about the success of Marvel Knights and Casada and stuff like that.
They dropped a couple.
Yeah, they dropped.
Black Panther was one of the other
Black Panther, yes.
We're going to do a show on the Marvel Knights someday, because it's worth that.
Yeah.
But there was those, and there's a lot of other ones that they didn't get to. Cut forward a little bit. I think there was one other mini. Was there not?
There might have been, I think, but it's not worth talking about. But then year 2000.
Year 2000, they say, all right, there's these 2 guys we know who are doing this book over at Vertigo. They're done with it now, so Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon, why don't you do the Punisher for a little while? And in the first issue, on one of the pages, for maybe a panel or 2, it said, something about a demon, whatever. So forget all about that stuff. And
they basically just erased the demon thing.
They rebooted him.
The story's called Welcome Back, Frank.
It was a 12-issue mini maxi series, depending on your definition.
Frank Castle takes on the local mob family, the Nucci's.
It's important to note that this is a Marvel reboot that people say that Marvel doesn't do.
Yes.
They rebooted
They completely rebooted the character. Completely. Yep. It was fucking awesome. This was in this year. I totally remember. This was like the best comic book that were going right at that time.
The 12-issue mini. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Garth Ennis's take, and this is kind of the beginning of this Garth Ennis epic run on the Punisher that really has been going for almost 10 years now. But Steve Dillon, this is where I read Preacher. I liked it. This is where I fell in love with Steve Dillon, and it had that wackiness, crazy black humor that Ennis is known for.
It was very much the Preacher tone.
Yes,
it was serious but funny at the same time.
Yeah, very, very much.
You had downtrodden Detective Soap who couldn't catch a break.
Oh, he was great. Yeah. Oh, great character. And this was so widely successful that this led to an ongoing series that lasted like 37 issues that Ennis and Dillon did most of that run.
And the 3 of us all read the 12-issue mini, right?
Yes.
And we all read at least part of the way into the series.
I read the whole way, yeah. Yep.
You read the whole 37?
Yep.
I dropped that at some point.
I dropped it in the middle because I started to feel repetitive.
It did.
And I don't remember, I was reading a lot back then, buying a lot of new... That was the year where we started really buying a lot from like Indies and Wildstorm and Vertigo. We all really just dove right in. Right. And I was like, well, this book's really repetitive. I got all these other books.
Yeah.
I kind of regret it.
What's kind of funny is that it did feel a little repetitive, and I think that Ennis felt the same way, because then what happened was that Dillon left the book for whatever reason, and
he had a pint to get to.
Yeah, I know. I love Dillon. He's great. If you ever go to a convention, Steve Dillon signing, get a sketch.
He just passed out.
He sketches in ball.
Gotta give the book to somebody else.
He sketches in ballpoint pen, and it's great. It's amazing. But so. Dillon leaves the book, and in 2005...
He's the Keith Richards of comic book artists.
He is. So Dillon leaves the book, and so in 2005, they moved the title to the Max imprint. And what this move allows Ennis to do is to drop the kind of humor aspect, because Dillon, as great as he is, draws somewhat cartoony. Depending on your point of view, it's not real. It's
not gritty.
Yeah, gritty.
Well, I was going to say grim and gritty. It's very serious, cartoony.
Yeah.
It's not like...
But there's a humorous aspect to it. His facial expression.
It can be.
I've only read him doing Ennis, so it's hard for me to say.
It's hard to say.
I mean, the violence is, like, almost funny.
So they move him to the Max title, which allows Ennis to curse, to have lots of violence, and really start telling realistic stories.
Mm-hmm. To do what he does best.
To do what he does best. The stories became less about fighting the mafia and actually physically taken out of the Marvel continuity.
Well, Max books aren't in continuity, so... you can do whatever you want there. He can, if you wanted, he could be the only person that wears a costume in the whole world. I mean, you can do whatever you want. In that book.
And so they told stories that had a lot to do with politics. They had ex-CIA, ex-KGB, the IRA was involved. Sexual slavery was a long plot line. The IRA guy, and how it tied into the local New York mob and the West Side, Hell's Kitchen.
I think what you got with Punishers, how many times can he fight the mob?
Yeah, that's the
right. I think that's why I dropped it. I think probably why Ennis got bored. I don't know, but it's certainly good at
8, by the way, is the answer.
Yeah.
So you go to Max now. You can do international stories. He can. He's interested in all this stuff. He can write about the IRA. He can write about international mobs. He can do whatever he wants, not have to worry about it. And he can deal with the fact that the Punisher originally was a Vietnam vet.
Well, I was going to say, what happened was Marvel had a series called The Nam, and they crossed over.
Yeah, I remember that. I actually read that.
They put the Punisher in The Nam, which said, okay, Punisher fought in the Vietnam War. But in the Marvel Universe, nobody really ages, and in the 90s, they tried to adjust it, say that he fought in the Gulf War.
Just like with Tony Stark.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of Punisher purists didn't like that because they felt his involvement in the Vietnam War was key to his character.
I think it's very key to his character.
It's a different war.
Yeah.
It was a different kind of war, different set of psychological issues with it. There's a whole different feeling to Vietnam, at least coming out of that than you have coming out of the Gulf War. I think it's important he's in the Vietnam War.
So what Ennis and Derek Robertson in 2003 did a Max title miniseries called Punisher Born, which was a kind of a origin story of somewhat.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, what it refers to as Born is it basically in the middle of it, something inside Frank starts talking to him. It's like white type on black background. Like I'm here. Let me out.
Well, the thing they're saying is the Punisher was born in Vietnam but didn't come out until the deaths.
He was always there. Basically, what it is it's a forward base, a fire base. I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head. They're at a forward fire base, and it's near the pullout, and everybody's forgotten about the soldiers. They haven't been resupplied. It's full of fuck ups and everything. And Frank is the only soldier, the only real soldier. Everybody else is there just getting high and screwing around, and no one's paying attention to anything. And Frank is just hard. You know what I mean? And he's killing bad guys a lot. Well, VC, and he's
venture capitalists.
Yes.
He's killing venture capitalists.
He lost a bundle
in the
first bubble.
In the jungles of Vietnam. And then he gets to the point where he kills, sort of indirectly kills a general. And then he starts thinking about killing people who are bad.
Yeah.
No, but not necessarily VC.
Necessarily, they're on his side still. It's drawn by Derek Robertson. It's pretty realistic, if not overly gory, because it's a Max book. That's important to know. And it sort of just establishes the Punisher as a character who needs to do this.
Right.
He needs to kill people.
He's a serial killer.
He kind of is.
He is a serial killer. He's psychologically, he's a serial killer.
Yeah.
He needs to kill.
Yeah. So it reestablishes, at least in this Max universe, that the Punisher was in Vietnam. And
which would make the Punisher now in his 50s or 60s.
And so now in the Max series that Ennis is doing, it's firmly understood that he's been a vigilante for 30 years, and he's getting on in years, and he's older, but he's still fucking shit up and fighting stuff and that kind of deal. And anybody who's read this, there are some people who love this series a lot. Admittedly, I stopped reading it. I forget where, in the 40s or 50s, because there was a character who had no face, and he had that plastic mask that would never creeped me out. So
that's why you stopped reading?
Yeah, seriously, every time I'm like, oh, this guy, I can't. So I want to go back and because they're gonna collect it all and all that kind of deal.
I want to read it. I feel like that I would have enjoyed Max more than the other.
Yeah, one. I think you really should. But then Marvel also made a move to kind of bring him back in the Marvel universe, and when we come back, I'll tell you all about that.
Thanks to GoDaddy.com for sponsoring iFanboy. If you want to make an impact online, GoDaddy.com has what you need. .com names starting as low as $1.99, plus world-class hosting, fast and easy website builders, and much more. Don't miss the GoDaddy.com holiday shopping spree. Between now and December 15th, every purchase of $50 or more automatically qualifies you for a chance to win a $1,000 cash prize. Visit GoDaddy.com today and use the coupon code iFanboy and save 10% off your purchase. And thanks to Netflix for sponsoring iFanboy. With Netflix, you can rent over 100,000 titles online, including Blu-ray titles with free shipping both ways to your home. They now have over 40 shipping centers, so almost all deliveries happen in just one business day. Plans start from only $4.99, and as a new member, you can get a free 2-week trial membership. Go to www.netflix.com/iFanboy to check it out.
Even though Ennis is taking the Punisher and put him in this Max title, he still exists in the Marvel Universe, and he cropped back up in Civil War. like I mentioned.
Was that where he came back?
It was kind of where he came back. Not where he came back, but he was just always kind of there. And that kind of spun off into Punisher War Journal.
So now he's existing in both worlds.
Yeah, so Punisher War Journal is in the Marvel Universe proper, and who knows, he's not, we didn't fight in Vietnam, who knows what his origin is there, and Max is taking place in this real world outside of continuity, that sort of thing. Punisher War Journal has apparently been a success. I mean, I know a lot of people really enjoy it. Matt Fraction started writing it, and now Matt Fraction and Rick Remender were co-writing it, and I believe Rick Remender has taken it over. And it's the Punisher in the Marvel Universe, and it's kind of like a throwback to the late 80s, early 90s one, but, kind of now.
Well, and I haven't read much of it, but what I have read was him in the Skrull invasion.
Yeah.
Having the time of his life. Driving a truck around, killing, smiling, shooting. And it was pretty satisfying, I've got to admit. For me...
The Punisher scratches an itch.
He does.
He does, yeah.
But the thing is, if you scratch an itch for too long, you tend to...
Well, that's what happens, yeah.
Create a sore.
Or it gets infected, and you get a nasty scar.
Yeah. Exactly. You need Bactine. And who wants Bactine when reading comics? Do they make Bactine anymore?
I think the Punisher is the same fascination with the Punisher is people are fascinated with serial killers, movies, and books about aberrant behavior. There's a fascination to things that you are not like.
Yeah.
What drives someone to kill. I find Ted Bundy as interesting as I find Frank Castle.
Yeah.
In little bits. I don't want to immerse myself in the world, but I'll read a book about that. Same since that book, the Roberts, same sort of thing. It's this whacked out personality. You want to read that for a little while.
Yeah. So and it's so interesting, and it's such a hot property that there actually have been many movies about him. Three movies, in fact. 1989.
There's a lot.
1989.
There's more than a lot of characters.
The first Punisher movie starring Dolph Lundgren, which we really shouldn't talk about because it's a bad movie.
He had a motorcycle.
I think it went right to video.
Might have. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was bad.
It did. He didn't not even have a skull on his chest. Just wore black leather.
Yeah, it was bad.
Stupid Dolph Lundgren.
But in 2004, it was exciting because there was a new Punisher movie, kind of in this wave of new comic book movies and it starred Thomas Jane.
And it was a loose adaptation of
Welcome Back,
Frank, and they moved it from New York to Tampa.
There's your problem right there.
And they cast John Travolta.
John Travolta as the bad guy. I like Thomas Jane as the Punisher.
Thomas Jane as the Punisher was great.
And I liked the stuff
and
that
he had
they
the
pulled.
skull. He had the skull.
I like the stuff that they pulled out of the book of the neighbors and the relationship with the
Back in
neighbors
the
back in
day.
days
I hate that
and
actor so
Jane.
much. I hate
Right, but
that
whatever.
actor so much.
That stuff was all good. It was just you can't put the Punisher in Tampa.
It didn't work.
You just can't.
So
it doesn't. It's not right.
It's not right at all.
Although I enjoyed watching it, it's just you can't. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
And so then there's the movie that's coming out this year in a couple of days, which is what's the name of the guy starring in it? Punisher Warzone,
Yeah.
and the guy
Ray Stevenson.
Ray Stevenson.
Ray Harryhausen.
Who you may know from Rome is Titus Pullo, which Connor and I give this to.
Cool.
That's two of
He
them.
was basically the Punisher in that movie.
Kind of,
in the
yeah.
show. He was a badass killing machine.
And he got
The trailer for this upcoming movie, there's a lot of guns. And a lot
Well,
of
they
shooting.
brought it back to New York.
Yep.
They said, all right, we screwed up.
Yep.
We're back in New York. He's fighting Jigsaw, played by
great.
McNulty from The Wire. And
Just an all HBO kind of thing.
I imagine it does, I'm not going to prejudge it, but
Yeah, I mean, I think
Seems
it's
a bit more surfacey than perhaps.
deep.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, then that's the tough
it's got good people in it, so I'm going to go with an open mind.
Fun, it's got to be better than Ghost Rider.
It's got to be better than Ghost Rider.
those are for your poster. It's got to be better than Ghost Rider, iFanboy.
Turd in a bag's better to Ghost Rider.
So check it out, and I'm sure if you're a Punisher fan, you'll enjoy it.
I'm thinking about Ghost Rider now.
Before we wrap up, there's a couple of other things I wanted to highlight, which is so bad. The great thing about the Punisher and this concept of that he's just this killing machine sometimes allows for a humorous take. And there was some black humor in the Ennis run, but throughout the years, there have been a couple of things that were interesting. The first one, in 1994, there was a crossover.
With Archie.
Punisher meets Archie, which, if you can get your hands on this, get it.
He's drawn in the Archie style.
It's hysterical.
See, the Punisher is so over the top anyway. It's not that much harder to just dial in 2 notches to absurd.
To camp, yeah, exactly. So Punisher vs. Archie, very funny. But in 1995, Garth Ennis wrote a one-shot called Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe that didn't do anything. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything. I bought it in '95. I have a first printing issue of it. And when he came back to the title in 2000, then people started buying the back issue. They've reprinted it since.
They reprinted it again actually this year.
Yeah, basically, it's kind of like a what-if story where the Punisher just kills every hero and villain in the Marvel Universe because he decides that they're all breaking the law and kills them all. Which is one contained issue of killing every character is very funny. But then, not so much funny, but a little more serious, but kind of humorous. Ennis did a one-shot in 2004 called Punisher: The End.
Well, the Marvel was doing the End series where they were telling the last story of other characters.
And the concept of this was that there was a nuclear war, there was a nuclear wasteland.
Was he the last one left?
And he survived it.
He's a cockroach.
And what happens is that he finds the bunker where the president and all the senators who launched the war and protected themselves, so he travels down and he kills them. Because they killed everybody else.
This is the thing about the Punisher. Yeah. Every story is, and then he kills them.
Well, that you have a problem with the Punisher as a character.
I get bored of it, and the thing is, he doesn't have anything humanistic to grab onto. He's driven by killing things, and it's fun for 12 issues. Yeah. And that's why I stopped reading it, because I was like, that was fun. Yeah. That's enough, though.
Well, sometimes that's okay,
and you know, he's not far off. You know, the basic points are the same as Batman, but Batman has a family and has.
He's a human.
He's a human.
He's not a serial killer.
Yeah, I guess that's it. He's not a killer, and there's a big difference between a person who's a killer and a person who's not. And also a person who has people around him that he can relate to people. Punisher has nobody.
Punisher. I got you.
Punish lad.
Alfred Punishworth.
I mean, but that's the thing. Sometimes a character's a character. Mm-hmm. You know, and I mean, it depends on what people want. A lot of people like.
At the end of the day, he's a serial killer, and I have a hard time
rooting for a serial killer.
Following him for years and years and years. Again, 12-issue mini was great. A little bit of the Max series was great. I mean, the non-Max series.
In the Marvel Knights series, you had Soap, you had the neighbors. There was a little bit of an ecosystem.
And then they all got killed. And Tobacco is wacko. I don't care what you say or anyone says.
So, tell us what you think of the Punisher. Email us at contact@ifanboy.com.
Careful with my comic.
Oh, sorry. Just a comic book.
Who are you?
I know. Well, email us at contact@ifanboy.com. Tell us if you like the Punisher and why.
And call us at 888-FANBOYS, which is 326-2697. And leave your name so we can send the Punisher to kill you.
Get thee to iFanboy.com to talk about this show, about why you like the Punisher, why you don't, and look at all the other stuff there. Check out the audio podcast. We will very likely do an audio show about the movie that's coming up, so look for that.
Hear what we think of it.
That's going to be out pretty soon.
Yeah.
And go Punish.
I forgot about Manucci.
It's funny because you were like, did you ever read it? And I was like, I talked, and then I was like, I don't have anything else to say. Someone pick up the thread. I'll keep talking until one of you do.
Right.
I don't remember.
I might have some Punisher books in my collection. I don't know.
I like Jim Lee.
3, 2.